Okay, we are live on YouTube. Welcome to the live stream, everyone. This is kind of a redo of the stream that I was trying to do last night. Apparently, YouTube had a little bit of a system outage, but we are back and we are going to be answering your questions live about credit cards, travel rewards, and miles and points. And I've got a number of questions that I've had sent to me in various forms about the Chase Sapphire Reserve. That's the new news of the night. But ask your questions in the chat, and I'd love to answer any questions that you have, and we can kind of make this a conversation over the next hour or so. Any way that I can be helpful to you, that is what I am here for. So. Um, Today, the Chase Sapphire Reserve launched, and it has its new sign-up bonus. And so the rumors are true. It's a 100,000 point bonus that is worth $500, or 100,000 point bonus plus $500 worth of Chase travel. This was the rumor that was most credible that I tried to mention last night, and that is live. But if you still want to get the old card, it looks like that is still available through personal referral links. So if you have a friend with a personal referral link and you are kind of lukewarm on this whole $795 annual fee thing, I think for a few days some of those referral links will still be live and you can still get the card under the old welcome bonus and the old annual fee. So I've got a couple of questions that I'm gonna just start off with that I've heard asked from multiple places about that card. There's lots of confusion about the new benefits and how those work, especially for existing card holders. So I've got some notes. Ben's big deal. Hi, Aaron. So greetings. Yeah, thanks for joining the stream. Really appreciate it. Ben's big deal is on YouTube. He's a great content creator. He's primarily on Instagram. If you see this screen, go subscribe to his channel. Ben's big deal. He is one of the foremost experts on miles and points in this space. Great friend, love him. He makes great content. You can learn a lot from him. Go check him out. So thanks for joining, Ben. And if feel free to chime in. If Ben says anything in chat, he's probably right. So so I would say trust him as an expert. But lots of confusion about the sign up bonus, and lots of confusion about how the bonuses are going to work and how the new benefits are going to work with the Sapphire Reserve. So if you have the card currently and applied for the card before June 23rd, you kind of get grandfathered into a few things. And one of those, hey, thanks, Ben. One of those things is that previously your points used to be worth 1.5 cents each toward redemptions with Chase Travel. That is changing going forward. So going forward, you're going to get 1 cent per point for most redemptions through Chase Travel, but you're going to get up to 2 cents per point for certain hotel and premium cabin airfare redemptions. So it's not always, so it used to be kind of a slam dunk to use points for Chase Travel because you could always get 1.5 cents per point. Now that's not going to be the case. You're going to see a little icon that says something like points boost, I believe, when you book travel. Those are the travel redemptions that you're going to want to book through the Chase portal directly. Everything else is going to get you 1 cent per point, unless you had the Sapphire Reserve prior to June 23rd, because you're going to be grandfathered into getting 1.5 cents per point for a while at least. And the way that it's going to work is, so like today you can go on there, you can get a base 1.5 cents per point for any of your redemptions. And that's going to continue until October 26, 2027. So nothing's going to change until then for you. You're going to be able to get the 1.5 cents per point or the increased values. So on October 26, 2025, Chase will take an inventory of all of your points in your account, and whatever points you have in your account at that date, those will be available for 1.5 cent redemptions through Chase Travel for the next 2 years going forward. So what you want to do is, if you have multiple credit cards, maybe say you've got a few Ink cards, you've got a Freedom Unlimited, you've got a Freedom Flex, you want to transfer all of those points into your Sapphire Reserve account before October 26th, 2025, because everything that you have in your account at that date will be able to be redeemed for 1.5 cents as a baseline for the next 2 years until October 26th, 2027. So if you've got the Sapphire Reserve and you've had it before, you definitely want to do that. You also want to do that if you don't have the Sapphire Reserve, and if you have like a Chase Sapphire Preferred or Ink Business Preferred, because those cards are also going to be changing the value that you're going to get for your points. So if you have the Sapphire Preferred or Ink Preferred, you can get 1.25 cents per point through Chase Travel. Same deal with those. Transfer all of your points into that card and make sure that your points are on that card before October 26th so that you'll be grandfathered into those legacy point redemption values for the next couple of years. I think I summarized that correctly, but if that was a little bit confusing, you've got some questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Once again, we've had a few people join. This stream is really about answering any questions you have about credit cards and travel rewards. I'll be here for a little bit of time, but let's keep going on the Sapphire Reserve. Let's see, I've got a mouse here somewhere. Okay, so new bonus eligibility. There's been a lot of discussion around this, and the speculation was before the new bonuses were released, before the card was released today, that the bonus rules were going to be changing. So previously, you could not get a Sapphire Reserve card if it had been 48 months since you last earned a bonus on the Sapphire Reserve or Sapphire Preferred, or if you currently had any Sapphire branded card. Now, Chase changed the language in the terms and conditions for the bonus offer. So a lot of people speculated that, hey, maybe you're going to be able to get this card if Chase just likes you. Well, a few people have tried to go through the process, and it sounds like there's no real hard and fast rule about when you can earn the bonus. If you're not going to earn the bonus, they'll give you a pop-up similar to the way that Amex will. But it sounds like if you currently have a Sapphire card, people are getting a pop-up saying that they're not eligible to get the bonus. So just kind of keep that in mind, right? If you've got a Sapphire Preferred and think, okay, I'm going to pick up a bonus with the Sapphire Reserve now that the rules have changed, well, maybe the rules haven't changed as much as as people had speculated. So just something to be aware of if you are looking at applying for this card sometime today. I don't like this change personally. I think it's less transparent, right? Like having a 48-month rule was pretty clear. I do like having the pop-up that says, okay, you're not going to earn the bonus. Do you want to withdraw your application? But at the end of the day, like if you're planning your credit card applications like you should be if you are into travel rewards and miles and points, having a hard and fast rule like 48 months since the last time you earned the bonus is really useful. So I don't like that change, but I do like the change where you'll get informed about if you won't earn the bonus and you have the option to withdraw your application. I've seen a lot of questions come in about dining credits, and these are quite interesting because this is one of the benefits that I was kind of excited about when it was rumored. It was so Chase Sapphire rules for 48 months, can't have more than 2 at the same time is still in place. So Ben, so Chase Sapphire rules for 48 months. That is no longer in the terms and conditions as an explicit rule. And it's no longer in the terms and conditions as an explicit rule that you can't have more than one Sapphire card concurrently. But what I've seen people get pop-ups for, people get pop-ups referencing that they're not eligible because they have a current Chase Sapphire Preferred. So I think that rule is still in play. And I don't really have good data on if the 48-month rule is still in play, but I would imagine that it is. What changed today is probably just a little bit on the process. Chase probably hasn't changed its business rules beyond that. This is we don't know what they're going to do going forward, but they're probably going to be pretty slow to make changes. So, but that said, if you want the card, there is little harm in going in and trying to put an application in, um, because the because you'll get the pop up if you're not eligible for the bonus, and then you'll be able to withdraw, and they won't hit your credit report, and it'll be no harm, no foul. So Ben asks, is the Chase Sapphire Business does the Chase Sapphire Business have the new rules or play under the Inc. rules? That I have not seen data points on at this point, but it seems like from what I've heard, it's Chase's intent to eventually move all of their cards into this into this idea that you can apply, and they'll tell you if you're eligible for the bonus because reasons. Um, so yeah, that's I guess that's what I'd say about that. But if you do see anybody, usually the best sources for stuff like that are data points on like Reddit or Flyer Talk. Usually people will post their applications, or if you're in a private forum, that can usually be a source of data points for sign up bonus rules. But I really hope that they I really hope that they don't tighten down approvals too much, because honestly, like it'll limit some of their customer base, right? Like especially if you're a travel rewards enthusiast, you want to try out some of these cards, and you want to get the sign up bonuses for the cards. You want to try out the products. Like personally, I'm not excited about the full package of the Sapphire Reserve, but I want to try out the edit, right? I want to try out the edit. I want to see how much value I can get from that. I'm a little bit skeptical about the dining credit. I want to try that out, and giving people who are really engaged with rewards programs access to cards, rather than letting some opaque algorithm determine if they're going to be if Chase thinks that they're a profitable customer. Ultimately, I think it's better to have clear rules, but that seems to be the direction that Chase is moving away from. But I don't know. We will see. Maybe at some point in the future I can do a video once I get a good feel for the new approval process. Once I see some data points on that, maybe I can do a video kind of helping people to understand what these new rules are. So Mike Newland asks, if you had to cancel one of your cards today, which one would it be? Okay, so as a context, I have a lot of cards, right? And I'm not going to go through this. I'm not going to open this on stream because, right, I don't want to show you my card numbers. But if I had to cancel one of, and I'm just flipping through this, if I had to cancel one of my cards today, I would probably cancel my Capital One Quicksilver. And so that is a no annual fee card. It earns 1.5% cash back, and I have had that card forever. It was one of the first cards that I've gotten, but I never really spend anything on that card. And the thing with the Quicksilver is, okay, it's a fine card, but Capital One generally only allows you to have 2 personal credit cards at any given time. So if I want to get and I have the Venture X, right? So I'm at my limit of 2 personal credit cards. I could, if I wanted to go all in with Capital One, I could get a Saver card, which would give me, let's see, what would so now that I'm actually using, since, since Google's stream stuff crashed, I took the opportunity today to set up some streaming software. So this is what the Saver Rewards card is what I would replace what I would replace my Quicksilver with, right? Because that gets me 3% cash back on groceries, on dining, on streaming services, 8% cash back with Capital One Entertainment. And pairing that with the Venture X, I think would be a really huge combination, and could get me a lot more value than that Quicksilver card. I just have the Quicksilver around because, quite honestly, I don't engage with the Capital One ecosystem nearly as much as I do with Chase and with Chase and Amex. But yeah, the Quicksilver one would probably be the one that I would cancel if I had to cancel a card today. So yeah, Mike, great question. Thank you. Um, Anybody? So we've had a few more people join the stream. This stream is just kind of an open forum. Ask your credit card travel rewards questions. I'm going to hang out for a bit, and really the whole point of this is to be as helpful to you as I can be, because I get some questions in the comments, but a lot of times you might have a question seeing a video. You might have something that applies to a current card that you're thinking about, or a way to use your points. And oftentimes, like with content creators like myself, there's not often a way to get questions like that answered. So I'm trying the live stream out. Ask your questions in the chat. I'm going to help you however I can. I do have some more questions on the Chase Sapphire Reserve that I'm going to go back to, because I mean that's kind of been the hot topic of this last week. So the dining credits. This is something that I was excited about when the rumors were coming out about getting a massive credit for dining with Chase Sapphire Reserve. But as I've looked into this, I have gotten more and more disappointed, and I've soured more and more on this credit. So if you don't know, the Chase Sapphire Reserve going forward is going to offer a $150 dining credit every 6 months, but it's not a general dining credit. It's only for Chase Sapphire Reserve exclusive tables. Now, if you're familiar with the Amex Resi program, so Resi is Amex's restaurant reservation service. They bought that a few years ago, and they kind of turned it into a credit card benefit where, okay, some credit cards get a dining credit if you go to a Resi restaurant. And I thought that this would be a lot like that. And there's a couple dozen Resi restaurants in my area. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A couple dozen Resi restaurants that that I can go to, and I'm able to use those Resi credits pretty easily. This Chase dining credit, there are 3 restaurants in the Minneapolis area that the credit applies to. Now there is a on Chase's website. There is, let me see if I can find this. Oh yeah, the Sapphire exclusive tables. Here, we'll go back here. Sapphire exclusive tables. No, that's not it. There was there was a list somewhere on that they posted on their website. If I can find that, I'll bring that up. But there was a list that they posted on their website of all of the Sapphire exclusive tables restaurants, and there were only 3 in Minneapolis, and they were incredibly overpriced restaurants. And sorry, they were not they were high-end restaurants, not the kind that I would generally dine at. I consider them generally overpriced. It just doesn't mesh up with my dining patterns. And I'm seeing a lot of chat with let's see. Yeah, so Ben, it does offer a $150 statement credit semi-annually. And okay, so Ben is finding some good options in LA restaurants, right? So, and he's warming up to this, right? So, I might eventually get there, and maybe Ben's way of looking at this is probably a better way of looking at the dining credit, right? It's not a where are you going to go for your kind of monthly, where's your monthly hangout, which is how I use the Resi credit. Maybe this is more of a once every 6 months you go out for a really nice dinner that you would otherwise not do. So yeah, this is probably the best use case for this. But this is why we try new cards, right? Like you get that incentive with the welcome bonus, and Chase has a year to sell me on, like, okay, I'm kind of forced to do a nice date night at one of these restaurants every 6 months. There's probably some value to that. So Ben, so I learned so much from Ben. Once again, Ben's Big Deal. Go subscribe to his channel. He's in the chat right now. Thanks for showing up tonight, Ben. Really appreciate it. But like it's stuff like this where I go in and I'm like, I'm not going to get the value out of this, and maybe in a year I'll be convinced. So um, or maybe what I need to do is go out to LA and visit my friend Ben, and we can just have some ridiculous dinners with our Sapphire Reserves. So, um, let's see. So, but kind of closing out the dining credits. I there's probably some value in there if you enjoy dining at expensive restaurants. I'm pretty skeptical of that value for right now. But R. Lambert, let's see. I have my P2 as an authorized user with the new rules. Why wouldn't I just have her get her own for the lounge access? Am I missing something? And it sounds like R. Lambert is also a fan of Ben, so that is great. Um, so so the way that the lounge access works for authorized users is not changing going forward. Now, authorized users are going to be more expensive on the Chase Sapphire Reserve. You're going to have to pay, I believe it's $195 a year for authorized users, but they'll get their own Priority Pass lounge access. They'll get their own Chase Sapphire lounge access, and so if you're solely looking at the lounge access benefit, there's really not a reason for you to get the P2, have their for them to have their own account just for the lounge access. Now, if they're going to get the additional benefits out of that, if you are both going to use that dining credit, if you're both going to use the travel credit, if you are, both, I mean, really it comes down to if you can both use enough of the credits to make it worthwhile, then it could make sense. But you can get by if you're just looking for lounge access, you can get by as just an authorized user. So Ben's big deal. Chase is forcing us to take our someone special out on a date, and frankly, for us travel rewards people, maybe that's a good thing. So come out this week and we can go out. I'm not kidding. The credit is live right now. Ben, I would love to take you up on that. And let's see, no problem in Austin using. So we got Mike again in the chat saying no problem in Austin using the Resi credit. That's great. I use it up here in Minneapolis for Kona. Kona Grill I think they've got a handful of locations throughout the country, but my girlfriend and I go out for our little sushi happy hour every couple of months. Okay, wow. Okay, wow. So we've got the legendary Miles and Points people in the chat. Really appreciate it. Let's see, R. Lambert. I'll have to go to your channel, and I'm gonna. Are you on? Okay, it doesn't have any content. So you know what? I'm gonna subscribe to you anyway. So if you start posting on YouTube, I will definitely see it. So, but since we've got some Miles and Points heavy hitters in chat, I want to get everyone's take on the 8x miles and points or the 8x points for travel purchases with Chase Travel, because like on one hand, I think it was 10x on hotels before, and then I think 10x on hotels and car rentals, and then 5x on flights, if I'm thinking about this correctly. So it's a little less on the hotels, but it's a lot more on flights. So my thoughts on car rentals and flights, booking those through a bank portal. First, car rentals. I have gotten burned through bank portals on car rentals because generally when you book a car rental through Hertz or Avis directly, or even through a site like Expedia, and you have a pay at the counter rate, you can walk away, you can cancel that rate, you can walk away from it, you can just no show on it, and you'll never be charged. But and this is the experience through the Capital One portal, but I think Chase's portal operates similarly. All of the rates are prepaid rates. So if you book it, some of them you can cancel up until the time of reservation, but some of them have a 48-hour or 24-hour cancellation window. And if you don't cancel it, you're on the hook for the entire rental reservation. And I went out to Yosemite last year for my brother's wedding and thought, okay, I'm, I booked a car rental through, in this case, it was Capital One's portal, and I just no showed on it because I forgot about it, and I had found a better car rental elsewhere. And I found out that, yeah, I burned $250 of my travel credit that I really didn't have to because, um, yeah, because I just forgot to cancel it. And so that's why I'm skeptical of using car rentals through a portal. Um, and Harley, sorry, I'm just some poor schmuck that likes your channel. Well, you know what? I appreciate that you are here. So thank you so much for joining. Honestly, it really means a lot to me that that so many people have signed on and subscribed and are watching the content. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about kind of my history and how I came to being on YouTube in a little bit. But but yeah, so I'm kind of curious where. So, okay, so that was rental cars through the bank portals, um, but then there's flights, and flight booking flights through a bank portal is something that I feel like 95% of the time it's fine, right? Like if your flight goes off as planned, everything is going to be fine. And even if you have travel disruptions, like your day of travel, like once you check in for your flight, your airline owns your ticket, so you don't have to deal with Chase Travel at all. But I think where you run into issues with that is when there's a schedule change, or like there's a schedule change, or like there's a flight cancellation prior to your day of travel. Um, now, yeah, now granted, I've probably been on some more interesting. I've probably had more interesting schedule changes and cancellations than a lot of people. But when that happens before your day of travel, then you have to start like working through your travel agent rather than the airline directly, and that can get really hairy. And for me, I'm a little bit hesitant to do that. But Chase might entice me to book some of my Delta flights through their portal with that 8x points. So, but I'm kind of curious, people in the chat, what you think about the 8x points on travel purchases. Like, do you prefer having 8x on everything you book through Chase Travel versus the 10x on hotels and rental cars and 5x on flights? Is that a win for you? Like in my view, it's kind of a neutral, but I don't know. I'd be curious. If some people just put in chat what you think about that. Um, so Mike Newland, losing the 1.5 standards was hard to swallow. Yeah, that I think that was a huge loss. But I did do some looking around with like in the Chase Travel portal today, and I am I am more I am cautiously more optimistic than I was previously about that, just because um, so when they said, okay, premium cabin, one of the things that you can get more value on is premium cabins through select airline partners. So I interpreted that as, they'll do a month promo for Eva Air, right? And so if you happen to be wanting to book a Hello Kitty flight from the United States to Asia in business class and pay for it, then maybe you can get a good deal on that redemption. But I found domestic US itineraries on United in premium cabins, and not just first class, but also like paid economy plus, were coming up as like increased value redemptions. And looking at some of the prices, if I was looking at booking a coach ticket with cash, and you know, maybe like taking 30,000 points, and I could book a $300. I could cash those out for cash, and I could book a $300 flight on United in cash. For that same routing, sometimes I was seeing 32,000 points that would book me into first class directly. Um, and when I'm kind of comparing those two options, I think that there may be some juice to squeeze out of this lemon for some of these domestic like domestic redemptions, which is we love to talk about our our business class and first class redemptions internationally. Like that stuff is fun to talk about. But practically most people, most of the time, are going to be booking domestic travels. And, if you can use just a marginal amount of additional points to book into first class directly domestically, that could be huge. So that might end up being the underappreciated sweet spot of this program. So, so like I said, I'm cautiously more optimistic than I was a few days ago. So, but Mike, remember that not that 1.5 standard, you still get that for the next 2 years. So, I think that like that is a big deal. I do think that that is a devaluation, but it is, it is not as bad as I don't think it's as bad as I thought it was going to be. Um, let's see. We have Eduardo saying Robinhood ruined me sending an invite. It's hard to like any other cards, especially with the annual fee. Let's see. Let's see. Bank of America Premium Elite, you can book through whatever sites you want, and they just call them when making the booking, and they'll refund you the 20%. Oh, okay. I did not know that. So Bank of America's card. Let me just let's see. We'll just go to the web browser, and we'll pull up their like high-end premium card, credit cards, travel. It's going to be under there. So Bank of America has a premium card that doesn't get talked about it. So this Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite card, it earns points, and without going too deep into this, they have a relationship banking program where if you have $100,000 on deposit or in investment accounts, you can get a multiplier that gets means you get 2.62 points everywhere, or up to 3.5 points everywhere on categories. And this card is the card that I believe lets you redeem your points for 20% additional value. Save 20% on domestic or international airfares for any class when you pay with points. Now, Eduardo is saying in the chat that if you book whatever site you want and call them when making the booking, they'll refund you 20% if it's not in their portal. Okay, so if Delta shows up in their portal, my understanding from what Eduardo's saying is that you'll have to book with Delta through the portal. But like, let's say you want to book Southwest, and Southwest isn't in their portal. I don't have this card, so I don't know exactly what's in their portal. If Southwest isn't in their portal, you can go ahead and book that for cash, and then do a point redemption to cover that charge, and then call them up, and they'll refund you that additional 20%. That sounds like what Eduardo is saying, which that is huge. And the Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite card is like, it's a great card if you're looking for multiple people to get priority pass lounge access. I actually put that in my video on the Venture X lounge access devaluation as one of the options, and especially if you're a preferred rewards customer, like this is a great card to look at. And Eduardo, it's saying that 4.3 everywhere, boost on travel and dining, 3.3 everywhere else. So looks like that's what it is when you count that 20% savings on airfare when you pay with your points. So usually, and he's saying usually the price is the same if you find it somewhere else. They don't hike the price. Yeah, so Eduardo, that's generally with airfares. That's what I have seen in a lot of the bank portals. The way that my understanding of the way that works behind the scenes is that there's really not that much like commission or anything baked into those airfares that you see on the bank portals. And so there's really not going to be much variation from what you'll see on like Delta.com or Expedia or Chase's portal or Bank of America's portal. But there can be some variation when it comes to the hotels. But so Frequent Miler did some looking at this, and they're like, Frequent Miler is one of my favorite Miles and Points blogs. Everyone should go follow Frequent Miler. They do some great stuff, and I think that they had an article about yeah, it may be a little bit buried, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go through a week of posts and find it on stream. But they had an article about kind of looking through some of the Chase the Edit properties and comparing what is the rate that you would get from Chase's portal with the rate that you're going to get from booking that hotel directly. And it seemed like the rates were pretty competitive on all of those edit properties. So if you're looking at hotels, you're probably going to get similar rates, but definitely check the direct rates, check Expedia. Car rentals through portals vary widely. So one site that I really like for car rentals is Auto Slash. These people, like, this is my first source for any car rental, right? Whenever I need to rent a car for a vacation destination or for a trip, this is where I go. I always get a quote through Auto Slash, and I would say it's not all the time, but I'd say north of 75% of the time, these people are giving me a better rate than I'm able to find on any bank portal, on any on any site online or directly. So yeah, so I would always check this site for rental cars. Um, let's see, and Eduardo, Capital One hikes their prices on the portal. So I guess my experience with Capital One has been that the hotel prices are usually like slightly higher, like maybe $10 per night for hotels, but the car rentals through Capital One are like I found some deals, but they're generally really bad. So, but I guess like kind of the wisdom in Eduardo's comments here is that you got to shop around if you are using one of these bank portals. Whether you're redeeming your points or you're just going to be booking cash through this portal to get additional points. Yeah, make sure that you're shopping around. Make sure that you're comparison shopping with the other online travel agencies. So, um, let's see. Other things that I've heard about um, the Sapphire Reserve. So, a lot of people have asked about the downgrade options for the Sapphire Reserve. Um, so, my understanding of what those are is Chase Sapphire Preferred, right? The $95 card that gives you access to the transfer partners. Chase Freedom Flex. I know that at least a few years ago, I personally downgraded to a Chase Freedom Flex. I've also heard Chase Freedom Unlimited is a downgrade option. And at least a few years ago, I was able to get the Chase Sapphire card, which the Chase Sapphire card is really interesting because it doesn't give you the transferable like point partners. It doesn't allow you to do that. But what it does allow you to do is it gives you similar travel insurance protections to the Chase Sapphire. Now the Chase Sapphire Preferred. So you can't get a no annual fee Chase Sapphire card directly. You can only get it as a downgrade option from either the Chase Sapphire Preferred or Chase Sapphire. But if you just want those travel protections, it's actually a really good card. I wouldn't use it for much spending, much of anything, because it earns 1x on pretty much everything except for travel, and then I think it earns 2x on travel. But you can get Chase Sapphire Preferred travel insurance protection. Chase Sapphire Preferred level travel insurance protections with the no annual fee Chase Sapphire card if you downgrade. I also like the Chase Freedom Flex as a downgrade option a little bit more than the Chase Freedom Unlimited, because the Chase Freedom Flex, that card gives you 5% back on up to $1,500 you spend in the card's quarterly bonus categories, which can be really useful, and they publish a lot of really useful categories, but I find myself running up against that $1,500 spending limit. So, I have used the downgrade option as a way to get multiple Freedom Flex cards, and I think that that's the only way that you can do that with Chase. They'll only give you one if you apply directly. So so that's that. Uh, let's see. Let's see. There was a comment that came up on my video that I want to address about the lounges. So there are some people, and this came up on the Venture X video and the um, the Chase Sapphire Reserve video. Is that some people see the advantage of like, okay, well, we're gonna have these cards offer less lounge access or become more expensive, and that's going to reduce crowding in these airline lounges. And I don't think that that is actually going to be the case. And here's why. Number one, Chase is going to market this card as much as they can, right? They want people to sign up for this card. They want them to pay the annual fee. They're giving really generous welcome bonuses on this card, and they're going to try to bring as many people into this card as possible. And you're going to have all of the legacy $550 users continuing to have this card for at least, on average, probably 6 to 8 months. So you're not going to see a decrease in lounge volume anytime soon. And what you've got to understand about the lounges is that Chase controls their own lounges, but most of the time you're going to be using the Priority Pass lounges with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, just because that's where most of the lounges are. And Priority Pass is happy to sell this lounge access to any credit card company or anybody who wants to pay for a Priority Pass membership. And it doesn't seem like they are really restricting access to that. So the lounges that fill up, I don't think you're going to see you're not going to see lower wait times, at least not immediately, if you've been in a situation where you've had to wait for one of these lounges. So I don't think don't get the $795 card thinking, oh, this is going to be my ticket to no waiting at like my favorite airport lounges. The lines and the overcrowding at lounges is largely not going to change in the short term because of this card. Let's see. Couple of the other credits that I thought were okay. I guess let's talk about their branding of like $2,700 in credits. I absolutely hate that, because the way that I think about these credits is, what would I pay for these in advance if I had to, lay out cash at the beginning of the year to buy this credit? Because that's effectively what you're doing when you're paying for this annual fee. And I think that a lot of people get sucked in thinking, okay, I just paid $795 and I get $2,700 of value. Well, you have to work for it. So some of the other credits and my thoughts on those, the StubHub credit for me, for StubHub credit is like either worthless or gold, right? And it really depends on, do you go to live events that you buy tickets to from StubHub regularly, right? Because if it is, that credit could be just like cash to you. But for me, I don't really go to many live events. I can't recall the last time I ever bought something on StubHub. I'm going to get zero value from that credit with a pretty high confidence. On the other hand, the Peloton credit is just like cash to me, because I am going to be I subscribe to Peloton. We subscribe to Peloton in my house. We're going to put that on this card. We're going to sign up for that credit, and it's going to be $120 cash. I can pretty much subtract that from the annual fee when I'm thinking about, how much am I actually paying for this card every year. The Apple Music credit, that one's interesting, and this is one to pay attention to if you have an Apple Music or an Apple One subscription that covers multiple people, because I spent a lot of time in the terms and conditions on this, and even though it's kind of billed as a $250 or what was it, 200 Yeah, $250 annual value. Here, we'll just pull this up right here. $250 annual value through complimentary subscriptions to Apple TV Plus and Apple Music. The way that this works is that you get a single Apple TV Plus and Apple Music individual subscription on a single Apple account associated with the card. So if you subscribe to Apple Music, like an Apple Music family plan, well, they'll give you an individual subscription in addition to your family plan, but they're not going to discount your family plan. So that provides really no additional value. If you subscribe to Apple One to bundle everything up, and also pay for storage through Apple, you will get an Apple TV Plus and an Apple Music individual subscription added to your plan alongside that, which provides no additional benefits. And so I think for a lot of people, a lot of people have Apple devices. And I think a lot of people pay for bundled subscriptions or for family plans for some of these services. And I think that a lot of people are going to say, oh, I'm getting $250, but they're not going to read the fine print, and they're not actually going to get any value out of that, which I do not like at all. So Ben says, I think I would have preferred a class pass instead of Peloton. Oh man, you got to get on Peloton. The content is so great, and then you can race me on the leaderboards and probably win. So, but stuff like that. Stuff like Peloton, right? It's like you either use it or you don't. So the credit is either worth almost the same as cash, or it's worth almost zero, right? And that's what I don't like about a lot of these credits, right? Chase knows that a lot of these are going to go to breakage because a lot of people are not going to use them. And then they advertise the giant $2,700 number as their headline number, which not a fan. So let's see. Our Lambert just compared a hotel Chase versus Capital One, along with a couple of others. Chase was much higher. Okay, so there's a data point and just an emphasis on something that said in the chat earlier and something that I mentioned earlier. Like with hotels, especially, you gotta shop around. You gotta do a comparison because the prices are not going to be the same everywhere. So let me just can I go back to some of my notes. So let's see. So chat, what else are you thinking about tonight? What are the credit card questions that you have? What cards are you looking at? Actually, I'm also curious, like if you have the Sapphire Reserve, are you going for the new card? Are you upgrading? Are you downgrading? Are you what are you doing? And which of the credits are actually interesting to you? We had a few people talk about that a little bit ago, but I am curious because one of the things about creating content about this stuff is that I have my perspective, right, and I have my my ideas of how I'm going to use this stuff, but it's really helpful to hear from everybody who's watching about what you're using these things for, because I might think that this Peloton thing is great and it's just like cash for me, but 99% of my audience might be like, no, we don't subscribe to Peloton, who cares? And knowing that helps me make more useful content. So Patrick V, if Amex Platinum and Chase Sapphire Reserve are the same annual fee, which one would I pick? Okay, for me, it's going to be the Amex Platinum, but that is heavily influenced by my situation. So I'm in Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a Delta hub, and the Amex Platinum includes some the Amex Platinum includes the some Delta Lounge accesses. So I would I would probably do that, but let me just like pull up the good old American Express here, and um, let's take a quick look at the Platinum card because I actually don't have the Platinum right now. I have the Amex Business Platinum. That's what I use for my Delta Lounge access. But man, so yeah, it's 100% going to be the Platinum because so the digital entertainment credit that like I between the Disney Plus subscription because we have kids, right? So we have Disney Plus. It's almost a requirement. And like some of the new subscription services that I subscribe to, that I get a lot of value out of. Fine Hotels and Resorts has been fantastic for me. And I've been able to get a lot of credit. I've been able to get a lot out of the $200 hotel credit. And the thing now, like the edit hasn't been out for that long. They're still building it up. But the thing that I like about Fine Hotels and Resorts versus the edit is that I found that Fine Hotels and Resorts actually, sorry, not because the hotel credit on the Platinum can be used for Fine Hotels and Resorts and the hotel collection. There are a lot of hotels in the hotel collection that are like upper mid-range hotels that I would stay at anyway, right? And so this hotel credit turns from kind of an incentive to book a nicer hotel than I would usually stay at into a credit that I'm going to get on a hotel that I would stay at anyway, right? So, and that type of credit is much more useful to me. The airline fee credit, I'm able to get that pretty much every year. I, and I was, I use that for additional collections on Delta tickets, and I think I'll leave it at that. This can be parlayed into, you know, changes to airline tickets in some cases. Walmart credit, I think this is a viable alternative to Amazon Prime, but I'm not going to not pay for Prime because I do have a lot of resale stuff through that. The Uber Cash, okay, most months I turn that into a few Chipotle orders, but I don't use that as much. So yeah, and thinking about this versus the Platinum, I mean, what is the Platinum? The Platinum's going to get me. So I'm going to use that the $300 travel credit. That's a slam dunk. For me, the $120 in Peloton credits is a slam dunk. But a lot of these other credits, like the $300 in DoorDash promotions, the Apple Music, like the Lyft in-app credits for rides, I think I'm gonna get more value out of the Amex Platinum. So if I could only pick one, and both of them were the same annual fee, yeah, it'd be Platinum all the way. So let's see. But yeah, but on that on that note, what I'm planning on doing with the Sapphire Reserve is right now, my partner has the Sapphire Reserve. I actually have the Inc. Business Preferred. And I think we're going to keep the card for an additional year and, renew it at $795 and just give it 1 year and see how it goes. And because the annual fee increase is it's a $245 annual increase over a baseline $550, right? So are we going to get $245 more in value out of the card? The Peloton credit, like, yes, that's $120, right? So now we're down to needing to get $125 of marginal value out of the card. Am I going to be able to get that from the edit credits and the dining credits? Like, as in, am I going to get enough value that I would have otherwise paid $125 for those credits at the beginning of the year? I think maybe, perhaps, kind of, but I'm not sure. So, the best way to figure that out is to just run it for a year and get the data. So, um, that is what I am going to end up doing. So, um, but for general lounge access, that honestly, that this couponification of credit cards, on the Amex Platinum, on the Chase Sapphire Reserve, has me really seriously thinking about just going all in with Bank of America, and maybe following Eduardo's lead over here, and just saying, okay, I'm gonna go the high end Bank of America card, and just kind of keep it simple. I have preferred reward status, like why not? So um, that might be that might be what I end up doing. So um, let's see other things that I am thinking about in the world of miles and points. Um, I really, yeah, I'm really curious what's going to happen you know, with Chase's other cards as they refresh them, because I've got to think that they're looking at refreshing the Sapphire Preferred, the Ink Business Preferred, um, and I think that there's a good possibility that they'll launch a $250, $300 a year premium travel credit card to kind of play in the middle of the Chase Sapphire Preferred and Chase Sapphire Reserve, because there's so much space in there. Um, and maybe something with the premium travel redemptions, with the lounge access, or no, with um, premium travel redemptions, a few statement credits, and then maybe like a limited number of lounge accesses could be interesting for somebody who travels a handful of times a year, maybe wants to experience lounge access on a few visits. I think there's something there. I am really like not looking forward to whatever Amex is going to cook up in their next refresh of the Platinum card. Um, but we'll see how that turns out, and I will get those. I mean, I will cover those changes on the YouTube channel as they come. So, um, and I think I'm probably going to close out the stream in just a little bit, but I mentioned maybe 45 minutes ago that I was going to give a little bit of context on how I come to this travel rewards YouTube content creation thing, because there was some interest in that as well. So um, I have been in the travel rewards game for a long time. So there used to be a forum called Fat Wallet Finance, which was more of a cashback and figuring out cashback and rebates and reselling, and with a little bit of travel rewards mixed in. And I got into that in like 2003-ish when I was in college, and I used a lot of these resale deals to fund my way through college. And then after college, I became interested in travel rewards and got into that, got into Flyer Talk. There was a conference called Chicago Seminars that was kind of the old school miles and points bloggers started that. I went to the first one of those. I've been in that community, and then eventually, after I went to my MBA program and went to work for a big consulting firm, I got really really into the miles and points game because I was earning a lot of those organically, and I started writing for places like Forbes, for places like Time, Wall Street Journal, NerdWallet, The Points Guy, like all of those big sites. And that was good for a time. But, I kind of a couple of years ago said it felt like a lot of those sites were kind of turning into a lot of SEO driven content rather than kind of thought leadership about miles and points and travel rewards. And I kind of wanted to do my own thing. So I launched a blog about a year and a half ago, and that started taking off. And um, about halfway through the year, Google changed a lot of how its algorithm allocates traffic, and I saw my traffic on that drop to almost nothing. And so I decided, well, why not YouTube, right? So I kind of switched my focus at the beginning of this year to be more in video content creation. It's been a terrifying journey because being on camera quite frankly, it's a little bit terrifying when you've been a writer for so long. But I'm enjoying it, and it's fun because I think it's a little bit more interactive than publishing a piece and kind of letting that out into the world, right? Because people comment, people share. We can do live streams like this, and this is the type of thing that I'm looking forward to as I build this up. And yeah, like I enjoy the space. I enjoy the travel rewards, and most of all, I enjoy helping people with this stuff. And I think that it's things like this where I'm going to be able to help more people out and learn from my audience as well. And so I'm really excited to see kind of where that goes. And and we've got somebody alumnus of Iowa State University. I assume that's what the ISU in chat is. So go Cyclones, and I think that's a good thing to end it on. So thank you all so much for joining. If you've subscribed, thank you so much for your support of the channel. It really means a lot. I'm excited about building this up. It's been really fun so far, and I'm really excited to see where this goes in the future. So thank you so much. Have a good night, and I will see you again soon.